Drive: The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us, by Daniel H. Pink. Introduction. In the 1940s, in a quiet university lab, a psychologist named Harry Harlow made a discovery so profound, so utterly contrary to the scientific beliefs of his day, that it should have changed the world. But it didn't. Harlow was studying learning. He presented 8 rhesus monkeys with a simple mechanical puzzle. To solve it, a monkey had to pull a pin, undo a hook, and lift a small hinged cover. It was a straightforward task, and he planned to use it for a 2-week experiment. He placed the puzzles in their cages, simply to get them used to the objects before the real tests began. But then, something strange happened. Without any prompting, without any training, and most importantly, without any reward, the monkeys began to play with the puzzles. They seemed focused, determined, even happy. Before the experiment had even officially started, they were already figuring out the solution. And when Harlow finally tested them, they solved the puzzles with ease, often in less than 60 seconds. Now, this was a problem. A big one. At the time, science recognized only 2 fundamental drives that explained all behavior. The first was the biological drive, the need for food, water, and procreation. But solving this puzzle didn't satisfy any of those urges. The second drive was what we all know so well: rewards and punishments. The promise of a treat for doing something good, the threat of a consequence for doing something bad. This was the engine of society, the foundation of how we managed people. We work harder for a raise. We study longer for an A. We show up on time to avoid getting docked. This is the world of carrots and sticks. But the monkeys weren't getting carrots. No one was giving them a raisin for solving the puzzle. No one was applauding. Their behavior made no scientific sense. So Harlow, scratching his head, proposed a radical new theory. A third drive. He argued that the performance of the task was its own reward. The monkeys solved the puzzles simply because they found it gratifying to solve puzzles. The joy of doing the thing was the reward itself. He called it intrinsic motivation. Then, the story gets even stranger. Harlow decided to test this. If this third drive was real, surely it would be amplified by the second drive. If he offered the monkeys a reward, a delicious raisin, for solving the puzzle, they would surely perform even better. He ran the experiment. The result was a scientific earthquake. The monkeys who were given raisins made more errors and solved the puzzles less frequently. The reward, the very thing that was supposed to enhance their performance, had shattered it. It was like dropping a steel ball to test gravity, only to watch it float into the air. This one simple experiment with a handful of monkeys and a metal puzzle revealed a fundamental truth about what drives us. A truth that, for over half a century, the worlds of business, school, and even our own personal lives have almost completely ignored. Daniel H. Pink's best-selling book, Drive, is the story of that truth. It's a journey into the heart of human motivation, revealing that almost everything we've been told about what gets us going is wrong. By the end of our time together, you will understand why the systems used in your school, your future workplace, and even in your own life to motivate you are fundamentally broken. You'll see why paying your friend to help you move might make them less likely to help you next time, and why offering a bonus to a creative team might be the worst thing you could do for their project. And more importantly, you will discover the 3 secret keys to unlocking your own unstoppable internal drive. This isn't just about being more productive. It's about living a richer, more meaningful, and more human life. Book summary. Imagine for a moment that society, like a computer, runs on an operating system. It's the background code, the set of assumptions about how the world works that guides everything we do. For most of human history, We ran on a very basic system. Let's call it Motivation 1.0. Its single directive was survival. We hunted, we gathered, we fled from predators. It was simple, and it worked. But as societies grew more complex, we needed an upgrade. We needed a way to cooperate, to get things done together. And so, we developed Motivation 2.0. This is the operating system we all know. It's built on that second drive, the pursuit of rewards and the avoidance of punishments. Carrots and sticks. This system was a stunning achievement. It powered the Industrial Revolution. It built our modern economies. The idea, first perfected by engineers like Frederick Winslow Taylor, was that work consisted of simple, routine tasks. Workers were like parts in a machine. To make the machine run better, you just needed to reward the behaviors you wanted and punish the ones you didn't. It was clear, it was measurable, and for a long time, it was incredibly effective. This operating system is so deeply embedded in our lives, we barely even notice it. It's the logic behind grades in school, commissions in sales, and bonuses at the end of the year. It's the assumption that to get people to move, you need to dangle a crunchier carrot or wield a sharper stick. And this system worked well. Until it didn't. Think about this. In 1995, if you had asked any economist to predict the future of the encyclopedia, they'd have faced a simple choice. On one hand, you have Microsoft. A corporate giant, flush with cash, hiring hundreds of paid professionals, writers, editors, managers, to build a digital encyclopedia called MSN Encarta. They would sell it and make a huge profit. On the other hand, you have a second model. This encyclopedia wouldn't come from a company. It would be built by tens of thousands of volunteers, for free. These people, many of them hobbyists, wouldn't be paid a single dollar. They would contribute their time, sometimes 20 or 30 hours a week, out of passion. And the final product would be given away, for free, to anyone in the world. Which model would win? In 1995, the question was laughable. Every principle of Motivation 2.0, every law of economics, pointed to Microsoft. The incentives were all aligned for them. The ragtag group of volunteers had no incentive at all. It was a cheetah racing against a tortoise. But you and I know how the story ended. In 2009, Microsoft shut down MSN Encarta for good. Meanwhile, that second model, Wikipedia, became the largest and most popular encyclopedia the world has ever known. The triumph of Wikipedia is a ghost in the machine of Motivation 2.0. It's an event that, according to the old operating system, simply should not have happened. And it's not an isolated incident. The world is now filled with examples of open-source software, for-benefit companies, and massive collaborative projects built not on financial rewards, but on something else. This is the central crisis that Pink identifies. The old operating system is crashing. It's incompatible with the way we work, think, and live in the 21st century. Work is no longer just a series of routine, algorithmic tasks that you can write a script for. It's increasingly heuristic, creative, conceptual, and problem-solving. For that kind of work, carrots and sticks just don't work. In fact, the science shows they often do serious harm. Pink methodically exposes the bugs in this old system, what he calls the 7 deadly flaws of extrinsic motivators. These aren't just theories, they are conclusions drawn from decades of rigorous scientific research. Let's begin with a story that perfectly captures the first, and perhaps most important, flaw. It comes from Mark Twain's classic, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Tom is faced with the dreadful chore of whitewashing his aunt's enormous fence. It's a tedious, boring job, and he's miserable. But just as his friends come by to mock him, Tom has a stroke of genius. He pretends that whitewashing the fence isn't work at all. It's a privilege, a rare and wonderful opportunity. He acts so engrossed, so deeply satisfied by the task, that his friends start to get curious. They ask if they can try. Tom refuses. He says it's too important, too much of an art. Soon, his friends are not just asking, they're begging. They start trading him their prized possessions, an apple, a kite, for the chance to do his chore. Twain concludes with a profound observation. Work consists of whatever a body is obliged to do, and that play consists of whatever a body is not obliged to do. This is what Pink calls the Sawyer effect, and its dark side reveals the first flaw. Carrots and sticks can extinguish intrinsic motivation. They can turn play into work. Researchers proved this in a classic experiment with a group of preschoolers who love to draw. They divided the children into 3 groups. The first group was told that if they drew a picture, they'd get a fancy good player certificate with a gold seal and a ribbon. The second group was simply asked to draw, and then, as a surprise, they were given the same certificate at the end. The third group just drew, with no promise of a reward and no certificate given. 2 weeks later, the researchers observed the children during their free playtime. The children who received the surprise reward and those who received no reward at all continued to draw with the same joy and frequency as before. But the first group, the children who had been promised the certificate, showed much less interest in drawing. Many of them didn't draw at all. The reward, the "if you do this, then you'll get that" contingency, had poisoned a genuine passion. It had taken an activity they loved, an activity that was its own reward, and turned it into a transaction. It turned their play into work. This effect has been replicated hundreds of times, with both children and adults. When you use external rewards to motivate people for tasks that are inherently interesting, creative, or noble, you almost always destroy their internal drive to do it. But maybe, you think, that's a price worth paying. Even if it kills passion, surely it improves performance, right? That brings us to the second deadly flaw. Rewards can diminish performance. 4 leading economists, including Dan Ariely, went to rural India to test this. They gave participants a series of games requiring motor skills, creativity, and concentration. They offered 3 levels of reward for good performance. A small reward, equal to about a day's pay. A medium reward, worth 2 weeks' pay. And a large reward, a life-changing sum worth 5 months' pay. The results were stunning. The people offered the medium reward performed no better than those offered the small one. And the group offered the massive, 5 months' pay reward, they performed the worst of all. The pressure of the high-stakes reward clouded their thinking and crushed their performance. Research from the London School of Economics analyzed 51 studies of corporate pay for performance plans and came to a similar conclusion. Financial incentives can result in a negative impact on overall performance. The third flaw is even more devastating for our modern economy. Rewards can crush creativity. Imagine you're in a room, and a researcher gives you a candle, a book of matches, and a box of thumbtacks. Your task is to attach the candle to the wall so that the wax doesn't drip onto the table. This is the famous candle problem, a classic test of creative problem solving. Most people try to tack the candle directly to the wall, which doesn't work. Or they try to melt the side of the candle and stick it to the wall. That doesn't work either. The solution requires you to overcome what psychologists call functional fixedness. You have to see the box not just as a container for the tacks, but as a potential platform for the candle. You empty the box, tack it to the wall, and place the candle inside it. Now, what happens when you offer people a reward for solving this problem quickly? A psychologist named Sam Glucksberg tried this. He offered one group a cash prize for a fast solution. He told another group he was just timing them to establish norms. The result? The group offered the reward took, on average, 3.5 minutes longer to solve the problem. The reward, designed to sharpen their thinking, actually narrowed their focus. It blinded them to the creative possibilities right in front of them. When a task is simple and has a clear path forward, what Pink calls algorithmic work, rewards can work. They narrow your focus and make you run faster. But for heuristic work, tasks that require creativity and innovation, that same narrowing of focus is a disaster. These are just the first 3 flaws. The list goes on. Rewards can crowd out good behavior. In one study, when a daycare center introduced a fine for parents who were late picking up their kids, the number of late parents actually doubled. The fine removed the moral obligation to be on time and turned it into a simple transaction. Parents were now just paying for extra time. They can also encourage cheating, create addiction, and foster dangerously short-term thinking. An executive focused only on a quarterly bonus will do whatever it takes to hit that number, even if it harms the company's long-term health. The promise of a reward sends a jolt of dopamine to the same part of the brain that's activated by addictive drugs. It feels good for a moment, but soon dissipates, leaving you needing a bigger dose next time. It becomes clear that Motivation 2.0, the system of carrots and sticks, is a deeply flawed and outdated piece of technology. It's not a law of nature, it's an invention. And it's time for an upgrade. So, if the old system is broken, what's the new one? Pink calls it Motivation 3.0. And it's not a complex new theory. It's a return to our true nature. It recognizes that we have that third drive, the intrinsic desire to direct our own lives, to learn and create, and to make a contribution. This new operating system is built on 3 essential elements: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. These aren't just nice-to-haves. According to decades of research from psychologists like Edward Deitch and Richard Ryan, they are innate, universal psychological needs. When these needs are met, we flourish. We're more motivated, more productive, and happier. When they're thwarted, our motivation withers. Let's start with the first element, autonomy. Autonomy is our desire to be the directors of our own lives. It's the feeling of volition, of choice. This is our default setting. Think of any toddler. They are bundles of curiosity and self-direction. It's only when the world begins to manage them, with rules, controls, and if-then rewards, that this default setting gets flipped. The old idea of management is built on control. But Motivation 3.0 is built on relinquishing control. A company in Australia called Atlassian discovered the power of this. Once a quarter, they hold what they call FedEx Days. For 24 hours, their engineers can work on any problem they want, with anyone they want, in any way they want. The only rule is that they have to deliver something, a new idea, a patch, a prototype, overnight. These bursts of pure autonomy have produced an incredible number of software fixes and new product ideas that would have never emerged otherwise. Google famously took this idea even further with its 20% time, where engineers are encouraged to spend 1 day a week on projects of their own choosing. The results? Gmail, Google News, Google Translate. Many of their most successful products were born not from a top-down directive, but from the fertile ground of autonomy. Pink says true autonomy isn't just about what you do. It covers 4 key aspects of work: your task, what you do, your time when you do it, your technique, how you do it, and your team, who you do it with. Companies that are embracing this are seeing extraordinary results. At Best Buy's corporate headquarters, they implemented a results-only work environment, or ROW. In a ROW, there are no schedules. People don't have to show up at a certain time, or any time. They just have to get their work done. The results? Productivity in the ROW teams increased by 35%, and voluntary turnover plummeted. Or consider Zappos, the online shoe retailer famous for its customer service. Their call center representatives have total autonomy over their technique. There are no scripts. There are no time limits on calls. Their only directive is to serve the customer well. This autonomy is a key reason why they consistently rank among the best companies for customer service in the world. They are not controlled, they are trusted. And in return, they deliver excellence. But autonomy alone is not enough. It's the pathway to the second element of Motivation 3.0, mastery. Mastery is our urge to get better and better at something that matters. The joy is in the struggle, in the pursuit of excellence. Pink argues that one of the greatest sources of frustration in the modern workplace is the mismatch between what people have to do and what they can do. When a task is too hard, we feel anxiety. When it's too easy, we feel boredom. The secret to mastery lies in finding that sweet spot in between. This is the state that the psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi famously called flow. Csikszentmihalyi, a survivor of World War II who saw firsthand how adults had failed to create a world worth living in, dedicated his life to studying what makes life feel truly meaningful. He discovered that the best moments in our lives usually occur when our body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. This is flow. In a state of flow, our goals are clear. The feedback is immediate. And most importantly, the challenge is perfectly matched to our ability. It's a little beyond our current skill level, but not so far as to be overwhelming. Pink calls these Goldilocks tasks, not too hot, not too cold. Just right. In these moments, we are so focused, so engaged, that our sense of time, place, and even self seems to melt away. The effort itself is the reward. This is the engine of mastery. But Pink explains that the path to mastery follows three peculiar laws. First, mastery is a mindset. This comes from the work of Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck. She found that people hold one of two beliefs about their abilities. Some have a fixed mindset. They believe their intelligence and talents are finite, carved in stone. Others have a growth mindset. They believe their abilities can be developed through effort and dedication. People with a fixed mindset avoid challenges because they don't want to risk looking dumb. People with a growth mindset embrace challenges because they see them as opportunities to learn and grow. Mastery is only possible for those who believe it's possible. Second, mastery is a pain. The path to getting better isn't always fun. It requires what researcher Anders Ericsson calls deliberate practice, years of focused, grueling, and often frustrating effort. It requires grit, the perseverance and passion for long-term goals. The moments of flow are what pull us through the long stretches of hard work. As the great basketball player Julius Erving once said, "Being a professional is doing the things you love to do, on the days you don't feel like doing them." Third, mastery is an asymptote. An asymptote is a line that a curve approaches but never, ever touches. And so it is with mastery. You can get closer and closer. You can become one of the best in the world. But you can never fully arrive. Tiger Woods, at the peak of his powers, was obsessed with getting better. He knew he would never achieve perfection. This is what makes the pursuit of mastery so frustrating, but also so alluring. The joy is in the striving, not the arriving. So we have autonomy and we have mastery. These two alone can create incredible performance. But to build a truly robust and fulfilling life, we need the third leg of the stool. We need purpose. Purpose is the yearning to do what we do in the service of something larger than ourselves. The first two elements are about how we do our work. Purpose is about why. Motivation 2.0, with its laser focus on profit, treated purpose as a nice accessory, something you add on if you can, but not essential. Motivation 3.0 puts purpose on equal footing with profit. In fact, it argues that the most successful and enduring organizations are those that use profit as a catalyst to achieve their purpose, not as the end goal itself. We see this shift happening all around us. It's in the rise of companies like Tom's Shoes, a for-profit company with giving at its core. For every pair of shoes they sell, they give a pair to a child in need. It's in the emergence of B corporations and for-benefit organizations, new legal structures for businesses that are animated by a public purpose. This isn't about charity. It's about a new way of thinking. The old model was that you make a lot of money, and then, later in life, you give it away to feel good. The new model is to integrate purpose directly into your work. This is the purpose motive, and it's not just for organizations, it's deeply personal. Researchers at the University of Rochester tracked graduates 1 to 2 years into their careers. They found something remarkable. The graduates who had pursued profit goals, like becoming wealthy or famous, were no happier than they were in college, even if they were achieving those goals. In fact, many of them showed increased levels of anxiety and depression. But the graduates who had pursued purpose goals, like helping others or learning and growing, reported much higher levels of satisfaction and well-being, and very low levels of anxiety. Attaining their goals made them genuinely happier. The study reveals a powerful truth: getting what you want isn't always what you need. A life built around the relentless pursuit of extrinsic rewards often leaves us feeling empty. A life built on the pillars of autonomy, mastery, and purpose, however, is a life that is truly driven from within. It's a life of engagement, contribution, and deep, personal fulfillment. This, Pink concludes, is the secret to high performance and a life well lived. It's not about finding better carrots or sharper sticks. It's about rediscovering our third drive, the one that has been there all along, waiting to be unleashed. It's about building our lives, our companies, and our world around a new, more human, and ultimately more effective operating system. Commentary. As we wrap up our journey through Drive, I want to leave you with a few thoughts on why this book is so much more than just a business manual. It's a lens through which you can look at your own life, especially at this stage, as you stand on the cusp of so many important decisions. The central idea that has always stayed with me is this profound mismatch between what science knows and what the world does. It's as if we discovered 100 years ago that the key to health was a balanced diet and exercise, but our schools and companies continue to serve only candy and insist that everyone sit perfectly still. It's that absurd. The world you're preparing to enter is still largely run on Motivation 2.0. You'll see it in the way classes are graded, the way internships are structured, and the way your first job will likely be managed. You'll be offered carrots and threatened with sticks. And the great danger is that, over time, this system can do what it did to those preschoolers who love to draw. It can take your natural, Type I curiosity and passion and slowly turn it into Type X compliance. This book is your defense against that. It's a reminder that your internal drive is your most precious asset, and you must protect it. So how can you start applying these ideas, right now, in your own life? Let me suggest 3 simple things. First, conduct a personal autonomy audit. Look at your life right now, your schoolwork, your part-time job, your hobbies. Ask yourself, where do I have control? Do you have autonomy over your tasks, your time, your technique, and your team? If you feel a lack of it in one area, don't just accept it. See if you can create a small pocket of freedom. Maybe it's negotiating with a teacher to do a project on a topic you're passionate about, instead of the assigned one. Maybe it's taking a generic summer job and finding one aspect of it you can truly own and improve. Autonomy is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Second, actively seek your Goldilocks tasks. Pay attention to the things you do that make you lose track of time. What activities absorb you so completely that the world just fades away? That is the feeling of flow. That is your compass pointing you toward what you should be trying to master. It might be coding, or playing the guitar, or debating, or fixing engines. Don't dismiss those activities as just hobbies. They are clues to your deepest motivations. Lean into them. Practice deliberately. The path to mastery is long and difficult, but those moments of flow are the fuel that will keep you going. And third, start asking the big question of purpose: what's my sentence? Claire Booth Luce once told President Kennedy that a great life can be summed up in one sentence. Lincoln's was, "He preserved the Union and freed the slaves." What's yours? You don't have to have the final answer at 17. Nobody does. But the act of asking the question changes how you see the world. It shifts your focus from "what do I want to get?" to "what do I want to contribute?" Even a small purpose? To be the person who makes their friends laugh when they're down, to master a skill so you can teach it to others, to volunteer for a cause you believe in, connects you to something larger than yourself. In the end, Drive is a profoundly optimistic book. It tells us that we are not destined to be passive, compliant cogs in a machine. We are born to be active, creative, and engaged. We are designed to seek freedom, to welcome challenges, and to find meaning. We are designed to be Type I. The world may try to reprogram you, but now you know the source code. You know what truly drives you. And that knowledge, more than any grade, bonus, or award, is the key to a truly successful life. That was a summary of Drive by Daniel H. Pink. We've hit the main ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, hearing me talk about it is like looking at a postcard of the Grand Canyon. The real magic happens when you stand on the edge of it yourself. It's in the quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a light in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see your own potential and the world around you. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It tells us we're on the right track, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.